I have assembled a tier list maker of all the Pokemon that are seemingly, and I'm putting seemingly there as a qualifying word because I don't actually know if this is accurate. Seemingly returning though in DLC 2, the Indigo Disc. The second Pokemon DLC for Scarlet and Violet releases in a week, so there's a lot of hype, of course, and I want to capitalize on it a little bit and talk about where I believe some of these Pokemon are going to be falling. Like I said, I don't know for sure if this is accurate. This is based on what I could find online, so if anything is wrong, then just disregard it, man. It doesn't matter. Enjoy the content. You know what else you should enjoy? Hit that subscription button. We're getting really close to hitting 6K subscribers, and if we can hit by the end of the year, that little mini goal, then hey, that'd be really, really cool. So help a brother out. Leave a like while you're down there. Leave a comment. What's your favorite Pokemon that you believe is returning in Indigo Disc? I am, of course, a Whimsicott lover, so I'm excited as hell to see that new Pokemon and will be using it. And let's get into this. So, like I mentioned, what are my sources? Well, Serperior had a list of Pokemon. Some of these Pokemon, and this is where I get the worried confusion. Some of these Pokemon that Serperior had listed as Indigo Disc returning, yeah, they're in the game already. Milotic, that is just not Indigo Disc. That was in, the Teal Mask. That was what the other one's called. That was in the Teal Mask. So, how accurate is the list? I don't know. Porygon 2 and Porygon Z, these are literally just Pokemon that I've been told are returning. So if they're not, like I said, oh well. Don't worry about it then, man. But, and then I've been told lately, I think this is something that was, I'll put confirmed in quotes, every Legendary is apparently coming back. So here's a, this isn't even actually every Legendary, I don't know. Is it? Might not be. But here's a whole bunch of Legendaries that, if they're all coming back, these would be included. Now, the easiest thing for us to do immediately is, if we're talking like where these Pokemon are going to end up, something like a Lugia, that ain't touching a lower tier. Ho-Oh? Nope. Nope. Reshiram? Nope. They're not testing. This isn't the gen that they're testing Reshiram down. Zekrom? Nope. Hiram White? Nope. Lunala? Nope. Like these, I'm putting up right now any Pokemon that has always been Ubers up into here. Except one guy, Solgaleo. I want to talk about him. Solgaleo I'm actually going to talk about because y'all know where we're going with this. But these are all Pokemon that have always been Ubers. They've never been given a real chance in OU. So as a result, I'm just going to immediately put them in Ubers. And these are also mons that I just don't think there's any real shot that they ever get tested down. Because, I mean, you're looking at mons that are either way, way, way too bulky or just way too powerful. And even in the case of Zekrom, I mean, it's gotten a buff as recently as last gen with Dragon Dance. And I guess that's also worth pointing out. There are going to be mons that get buffed, mons that get nerfed out of this list that we just don't know about already. So, who knows? Some of this could be based on moves that they don't even get anymore. Like maybe Incineroar somehow lost knockoff. You never know. And Incineroar without knockoff is definitely going to be like 2 whole tiers lower than where I'm going to end up putting it. But we can start off with Venusaur, and Venusaur is an interesting case right off bat, because in Gen 7 it was actually NU for a little bit. It got banned from NU, but I don't think it actually ever rose from NUBL. So I've heard some people that think, oh, well, it'll obviously be decently high up because of Sun. Well, we have evidence to the contrary from a previous gen. Now, it's gotten some buffs since then. Earth Power is a pretty significant one because it means you actually have a way to hit Heatran, and that's particularly practical in a terastallizing generation where you don't have to worry about your Heatran matchup already because of a mechanic. You just tech Terra Blast ground and you're chilling. But now you got the move to hit it innately, so you can use your Terra maybe on a resistance. And I say a resistance because think about Venusaur under Sun. Your coverage, you're probably going to roll with like Sludge Bomb, Earth Power, Weather Ball, at least from an OU angle. Maybe in a lower tier you don't even need Earth Power, but then you throw like Giga Drain on there for sustain. So I don't think you actually end up needing Terra for coverage per se. Instead, maybe you throw like Terra Water on there, so you can resist fire type moves, or even Terra Fire, so you do the same thing. You retain a Fairy resistance as well, but you're even getting more damage on your Weather Ball. So Venusaur's got a bit of a more interesting angle with terastallizing. I think I would probably venture a guess, and I'm gonna say UU or like RUBL, because I don't think it gets OU usage. I could see it because Sun's actually able to be run very viably in OU nowadays, because you've got all the Paradox Mons with Photosynthesis. It just opens up more options, right? But I don't think Venusaur breaks that. I think Venusaur just at the end of the day will end up not being good enough to get all the way up to OU. But I definitely think it'll be UU or RU will be forced to take some sort of action on Sun, and Venusaur could be a casualty of that. Blastoise! Now, that's... oh, God. So, y'all already know. I think Blastoise should never have been banned from NU last gen. I believe they're... how do I put this delicately? I believe in recent months, there's an increasingly large group of people that are not satisfied with offensive counterplay. And what I mean by that is pressuring Pokemon offensively or through other means like hazards, aggressive play, like, you know, not even a Pokemon, just playing aggressive versus it. They're not satisfied with that as counterplay. They want reliable defensive counterplay under every circumstance. And if they don't have that, they want them on banned. And I think that's why Blastoise was banned last gen. This gen... all that to say, this gen, I'm kind of worried about terastallizing of Blastoise. Who's stopping, mens? Who's stopping, bro? I don't know. I could still see being in you is the thing. But when you think about, like, it's hard, because some of this is, I have to project drops from RU as well, right? But, if you look at right now in you, if you were to airdrop Blastoise into NU right now, I think there's zero shot that mon is anywhere near balanced. And that does come down to, I think defensively, there just isn't anything that's stopping it. Outside of some mods that, you know, like something like a Sylveon. We already know you can EV that to avoid a 2-hit KO. But, okay, now I'm a Steel type. Now I'm a Steel type Blastoise as you Hyper Voice. Because Blastoise, I feel, is another mod kind of like Venusaur, where you don't really need terastallization to give you better coverage. Blastoise already has great coverage. You got moves like Surf, Ice Beam, Dark Pulse, Aura Sphere. You can go physical in some cases. Like, he's chilling. But, and then, you know, maybe Vaporeon drops, okay, maybe it starts wanting to run some of those terastallize options for coverage. You know, maybe I'm going Terra Grass now. Maybe I'm going Terra Electric. Probably Electric, because nice to have the immunity to paralysis. Maybe even Dark, because then you get an immunity to Prankster from, like, say, Grafaiai's Encore. And that could definitely be a method of counterplay, and that just makes Dark Pulse do even more. I'm gonna say Blastoise probably gets banned again if it falls to NU. Or it's just good enough to be RU. I think it's probably a little bit better than Dreadnought, since Water Rock is just worse defensively than Water. Yes, you have some other resistances. You got a lot more weaknesses. Pure Water's always been an incredible defensive typing. It always will be. You're only weak to 2 things. You could always Terra really timely into an Electric type like I was suggesting. God, words are hard. And then your weaknesses, those are literally not doing anything to you anymore. You got different ones, of course, but y'all get what I'm going for. Vileplume, I mean, it's going to be NU. It could end up in UBL, right? But, I don't know, again. It was NU last gen. We had some people wanting it to be banned, but really, I think those calls were a little bit misguided. In my view, I think Vileplume is just annoying mon. And sometimes you just gotta accept a mon is going to be kind of annoying. Will it be absolutely elite? Yes. That's really all I have to say on that. And see, this is now where I have to wonder where my tier list, am I accurate on it? Because I can open up this other image that a friend sent me that has a lot more Pokemon in it. You know? But then I look at it and I'm like, so many of these mons are banned as is, but then you got something like Tentacruel is here. And Tentacruel should go on this tier list. Kingdra would fit on this tier list. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna pause this real quick, and I'm gonna add all the Pokemon that I currently don't see on my tier list that I got from this image. So we're gonna be right back with a ton more Pokemon to talk about. Alright, we're back, and now look at how many more Pokemon we have. And I did get some confirmations, at least from the other thing I was looking at, where it did show Pokemon like P2 are on there. So once again, though, I mean, if any of these new additions aren't actually coming back, then oh well. We'll cope. Oh my god, some of these guys are scary. Anyhow, like I said about Vileplume, gonna be kind of annoying, especially with Terra, but honestly, in some ways, Terra's kind of not that even useful for it. Like, I think Terra could be really annoying on the growth strength sap sets, or even if it can still run trapping sets with like, Leech Seed Infestation. That would be kind of annoying to have Terra, but from other perspectives too, this mon kind of wants to keep its innate typing when you think about so many Pokemon that it commonly is trying to check. God, you Terra, and you're just getting smoked by them. I'm really not sure how much Terra is good for this outside of maybe winning a certain exchange. So like versus a Goodra. Maybe you Terra Fairy or Steel, I don't know which one you'd want to do there, and it lets you finish it off. But then you think about all the other reasons you usually have a Vileplume on your team, right? You're trying to pivot into an Earthquake here or there. You're trying to check a fighting type. Well, Fairy helps versus some fighters, other ones burk you anyway. And you try to check into a ground type with Terra Steel. Ugh, good luck. Anyhow, Blossom, yeah, I'm sorry. I like Blossom. That mon is not touching any tier above PU. Absolutely not. Tentacruel, honestly, I think it's going to go RU again. The sad reality of Tentacruel is it just isn't very potent. Like, I could see this still being UU. Because it is really fast, and it does offer a lot of utility. It's probably going to be a mon that keeps Toxic. Maybe it keeps Knockoff, I don't know though. And this is where, you know, some of making this as early as I am is a bit dire, because I don't know. A mon like Tentacruel relies so much on a move like Knockoff, because otherwise you're passive. Scald as well. Did it keep Scald? I'm working under the assumption that Tentacruel probably at least lost Scald, since Volcanion is one of the, like, you know, Scald's on, like, what, Volcanion? Nothing else? Maybe it's on Milotic, I forget. But it's not really on any Pokemon. And a Tentacruel that can't Scald Burn just seems not anywhere near as threatening. And something also worth throwing out there. Tentacruel is an RU in Gen 8. It's barely RU. It's like mid. It's like B rank or something on the VR. So there's a world where Tentacruel falls to NU. I'm just going to play it a little safer and still say RU. Because you still have a really fast Rapid Spinner. It's probably keeping Toxic. Probably keeping T-Spike. Should still have Haze. It's still going to do plenty. It's still going to check a ton. But yeah. Dodrio, like, there's some mons that we're not even going to talk about much, right? Dodrio's going to be PU. This mon has just never been good since, like, modern generations. I think as recently as Gen 4, it never got above NU again. Dugong, same thing, except never was good. Executor is going to be the same guy. He's just not going to really do much of anything. He's going to be very easily PU, once again. I think Terra will at least help Executor for what it's worth. Because coverage, not something it really has a ton of. Now, under Sun, I don't think you need a ton of coverage. However, maybe you're trying to run something like Specs outside of Sun. Terra Blast could end up actually being kind of decent for you to give you some nice coverage for Dark types. Also, once again, note, no Legendaries on, all the Legendaries are back. I don't know if that'll count Ultra Beasts or not. So, that's something to think about. Hitmonlee, this is actually a little bit more interesting, because Hitmonlee always has that potential to rise to a tier like NU. Since Unburdened lets you do some fun stuff with setup sweeping, I'm gonna personally say it will not be. But I could see it. Hitmonchan, same thing. It's just not a very good mon. I mean, you want to look at the other fighting types, they're all far better wall breakers. The minuscule amount of utility Hitmonchan offers through, like, Rapid Spin, Mach Punch, and whatever bulk you want to talk about it having is just never going to carry it above PU. Hitmontop. See, here's the annoying one, because Hitmontop, in theory, should always be PU. This mon's very bad. But it also always ends up in NU, for God knows what reason. I swear, the NU ladder heroes love this mon more than anything else. They would trade away their entire family, their entire life savings, if they could have Hitmontop right now. And I firmly believe that. So I'm going to put it PU, but I want you all to understand, Hitmontop will be NU. There is no debating that. I'm just gonna put it in you because god dang, man. Surely, right? Surely it goes PU for once. Look at this guy, by the way. He changes up some of the things I'm gonna say. Rhydon. Now, Rhydon I'm gonna say is Inu. And this is a trend that's kind of not been as consistent in recent competitive Pokemon. I mean, Gen 8. Because Rhydon did fall below Inu, and a large reason for that, I believe, is because you look at the rockers we were working with then. You had buffed Mudsdale, you had Copper Raja. It's still a Marvel Steelix never fell to us. But Dawn with Terra, I think is actually going to be really cool. You can Terra Electric, you only have one weakness. Conveniently, it's to ground, which you already you don't resist, but you have a good matchup versus anyway, because of your bulk. So, stray Earthquakes aren't going to be too problematic, and you weren't trying to 1v1 an offensive ground type to begin with. It also doesn't, I mean, Terra Electric doesn't change your outlook. Why am I talking about Terra Electric? Hold on. Erase all that. Terra Water is what we're talking about. You're already weak to grass, so that didn't change anything. And you were immune to electric, so you might be thinking immediately, oh, well, you're weak to it. Haha, Lightning Rod, though! So Rhydon finally has a viable ability, and you already had a stellar defensive typing. Mostly because, I mean, Ground Rocks, I say stellar. Really, it's because you look at Rhydon's stat distribution, and then you look at what it's weak to. Ice, who cares? Steel, really, who cares? You already beat pretty much every steel type anyway. Water, okay, you were getting smoked by anyway. Grass, okay, you're getting smoked by anyway. Fighting, okay, it's actually not that bad because you're so bulky on the physical end that you know, there's been a lot of exchanges we've seen in tournaments where Rhydon could just tank a CC from, like, Passimian and then drop it on its neck with the Earthquake afterwards. But you talk about water? On this mon? A water type without a weakness to electric, so it's literally going to be only weak to grass. It's only going to be a ×2 weakness. This one's going to be really good. And Rhyperior, I think will still be better, of course. Solid Rock with water is going to be similarly really good. Because, okay, only 2 weaknesses. But I'm even less weak to them than I normally would be. So, similarly really good. I think we can see Rhyperior even up to you. Like, frankly, this could happen and I wouldn't be shocked. I'm just partly keeping this guy down here because I want to hope that we're getting Rhydon and he'll be in you forever. Rhyperior, I mean, it's still kind of tough because you think about UU. I don't know how... Actually, I think Rhyperior might actually be UU with Terra. That is a disgustingly good buff for a mon with Solid Rock. Dawn, I just think the buff's a little less pronounced because Rhyperior's a little stronger, a little bulkier. I think Solid Rock overall offsets the fact that Rhydon has a whole immunity. Rhyperior may end up having functionally no weaknesses with Solid Rock coming in. That could actually carry this mon really high. Yeah. I mean, you also get leftovers compared to a Violite, so, you know, still reliant on not getting hit by Knock for its longevity, because you get hit super hard by that. This losing Knock, at least you keep all your bulk. You can still rely on Wish Pass. This gets hit by Knock, oh my god, it's joeable. But, yeah, I could definitely see Rhyperior being as high as UU. I mean, you check things like Noivern up there, you check things like Mence, with Terra, God, could you beat Iron Hands, maybe? Which might even just be leaving UU soon anyway. But could you check Iron Hands with Terra? Ooh, I might like that. Magmortar, it's gonna be PU. There's just too much competition for fire types anywhere else, and this mon doesn't really do anything special. It's just a wall breaker with some pretty good coverage. In some ways, it's gonna make it a pretty good Terra user. It could be, I mean, low-key, there's like that PUBL potential, especially as we look at all of the Pokemon returning. And you look at bulky water types, not too many coming back that are like, well, there's 3, I guess. Pert, Lantern, where was Lantern right here? Pert, Lantern, Primarina, I guess kind of all count as bulky waters. I just don't know if what effect that has on the tiers in terms of forcing other bulky water types to fall. So that's interesting. Because PU gets more bulky waters, I think you probably just end up fine versus this anyway. Plus, things can always tear a dragon, and then you've got a good check to Magmortar. But this is definitely someone that I could see trending more towards like the PU-BL side of it. Just in the event that PU doesn't really get more counterplay in the future. Because yeah, even NU, you look at our tier right now, offensive fire types are quite good. Because there's not a lot of water types to stop them. You know every video I do with Joey, we're always looking at a team like, oh, where's our fire resist? Yeah, well, I'd love to have one. Unfortunately, I even have the builder open right now. Don't pay any attention to this. This is not important. This was definitely not an idea that came to my mind while building. But what's our check to fire types? You got things like, you can hope Chansey tanks the hits. Colossal, that mon is just kind of, you know, tough to use. Not a bad mon. Like Goodra, okay, sure. Thick Fat Yama, I guess, yeah, that counts. And you keep going down the list. Like Quillfish, yeah, you're funny. Funny guy. Thick Fat Snorlax, I guess. You know, it's a lot of mons that aren't really that enticing to use, and a lot of other mons that are like generic special walls, like Umbreon, Sylveon, Chansey, Florges, Screamtail. All I have to say, Lapras, this mon is never going above PU. I don't care. Meganium. If you get buffs, you'll still be PU. Let's go. Gator. Gator's actually one where I'm thinking RU, but there's a world where power creep hits it. I'm gonna say RU though, or NUBL, because Sheer Force Dragon Dance stuff is still really, really scary. And I think this mon just always finds its way onto those lower tier hyper offenses to the extent that it always will keep it above NU. We've seen a lot of Feraligatr on UUHO, and I think it was Gen 7? Mind is fading right now on whether it was UU Gen 7 or if I'm thinking earlier. But I think I remember seeing it a lot in UU. It was obviously wasn't in the game in Gen 8, so we have nothing to base it on there. But Gator was quite good back then. UU, I believe, even still has Light Clay, so HO will always be prevalent there until they ban Light Clay. I think at worst, you know, maybe it then falls to RU. Where, I guess I am putting it RU, huh? Yeah, I mean, I think that honestly seems better anyway. RU has... not RU. UU has so many stupidly good setup sweepers. I think Gator could just struggle to find a real niche. Like, how am I justifying this over Salamence? Over things like Iron Leaves? It's tough, you know? Iron Hands. You could just say they're not all the same mon. Yeah, they're not. They're just better. Like, sometimes the comparisons aren't the greatest, but they still are okay because they're just better Pokemon anyway, so you'll default to them before a Feraligatr. I think this should be really good though in RU. Even if you're talking about like Rain, I think Manual Rain could work with this guy. Skarmory, we finally get an OU Pokemon. I mean, as you all have noticed, there's a lot of like low tier Pokemon dropping. But Skarmory will still be OU, I believe. I don't think anything really has changed for this. And if anything, it probably forms an incredible core with Great Tusk. Great Tusk, of course, always pairing well with Spike Setters. Because you got that spin on deck, you could have rocks. So you get a really elite hazard stacking core going on. I think the one worry could be that Skarm is going to have to deal with the Roost PowerPoint nerf like every other Pokemon. And... you know, Skarm's special bulk has never been something highly touted. It's also kind of commonly invested a little bit of bulk into special defense to try and offset taking some of those Dracos from strong Pokemon like Pult. So it could be a little iffy, but I'm gonna still err on the side of caution and not try and write off Skarmory. Plus, there's just something about Iron Defense Body Press Skarm that sounds really kind of nice in a lot of current OU stuff. Now, I will say there's totally a world where Skarmory does fall to UU and just ends up being one of the best UU mons, but you know what? I'm gonna say OU. Lantern, this might shock some people. I'm gonna put it in NU. This is kind of by virtue of being like, what's the other options? Look at our bulky water type. We don't have any. So I don't think Lantern would be a long-term NU thing. I think at least in the early metas, though, there's a very good chance that us NU users use a lot of Lantern. Because, yeah, we haven't had a real bulky water type since Vaporeon earlier on. The worry would be that this mon lost every move. Because you think about Lantern, this is actually making me want to... I'm going to put it down here. I realize the error of my ways. Lantern might be in you for a little bit anyway, but this is contingent on a lot of things. Scald, Toxic, and Heal Bell. Those are 3 moves that are kind of just gone. I think Heal Bell is entirely gone, right? If I'm remembering correctly, Heal Bell is just not a move in the game anymore. Toxic probably is gone because it's barely on any Pokemon. And it's Scald again, not really on any Pokemon. Yeah, never mind, Lantern sucks. Smeargle. I must say OU, and that's really just because Webs is good in OU. Smeargle's probably a little better than Ribombee too, because you got Spore. You know, you can do Spore, Sticky Web, Stealth Rock, Nuzzle. You just have every utility move you want. And so I think if Webs retain some level of decency, then yeah, they're still probably going to be carried by Smeargle as opposed to the other mon. Kingdra, I assume will be banned from PU at a minimum, otherwise it'll be NU, and honestly, in this gen, it might be NUBL. I'll even reorganize that a little bit, just so it's like, all the water types. Just so it's the, like, RU guys, I think, and an NUBL here. The one thing that makes me wonder if Kingdra could be NUBL this gen is how does the lack of water types affect it? Now, I don't think that's as big of an issue, whereas, like, if we had no fairy types would be. Because we still got things like Sylveon, Screamtail. The worry is Terra Steel and how that plays into that matchup. Because, yeah, I mean, something like a Sylveon last gen was a really common way of beating up on Kingdra because you needed a lot to go your way to win that exchange if you were running, like, the Scope Lens sniper stuff. And any other set just really wasn't ever getting usage because Kingdra was kind of niche compared to Inteleon and Blastoise in earlier metas. But Terra Steel could be pretty good. And then that's where the lack of bulky waters would really come into play, because then there's nothing else that you could at least hope could take a Draco and, I don't know, maybe finish off a weakened Kingdra. It's kind of tough. I'm honestly thinking this one might be in UBL, just because Terra Steel sounds so obscene to deal with. I mean, it's not like your Screamtails of the world. That could still mess with it with Encore. Especially because Kingdra's a mon that if you want to hit its peak power, it has to do multiple turns of setup. You know, you need the sub plus the focus energy, or the agility plus the focus energy. Just focus energy alone is probably not going to be enough to ever let Kingdra really pop off. Because it's just too slow. You want to have the sub for safety, or you want to have the agility so you outrun everything. And I think without both of those, it's going to suffer in any given game. Because keep in mind, you don't focus energy up, you don't keep spamming your crits, and your Draco Meteor will eventually be doing like 5%, or your Hydro Pump. I'm going to keep Kingdra here for now. Because Kingdra without Terra was not some dominant beast, and this is a mon that realistically, with the buff to Terra, can just get a resistance versus some mons. So I don't think that's a whole swing from niche to OP within NU, but it's one that I think we can keep an eye on, for sure. Granbull will be bad. Tell me what that mon does. Please. I implore you. Let me know. What's he doing? Porygon 2, this is actually a kind of funny one, because there's a world where Porygon 2 isn't even NU. You think about Recover nerf. I believe Teleport was a move it had last gen, it doesn't anymore. So it can't pivot. And it doesn't have Toxic anymore. What if it could definitely be PU. Now, I think it would actually be PUBL more than anything. But it could definitely fall, because we also have Chansey right now, and people just like Chansey more. I mean, you offer more utility, because you got Stealth Rock. You can do T-Wave, which B2 probably can as well. Or Discharge, you just fish for Paralysis that way. It's actually kind of an interesting mon to think about. I don't know if it would be NU. I don't think it stays RU this gen. It was, from my understanding, not very good in RU anyway and should have dropped back down. But I definitely don't think it hits RU this gen outside of maybe people just wanting it to get usage there. Huh. I don't know. I think instinctively, I'd say it would still hang on to Inu viability. There's enough else about this mon to like. It's not super passive, so you can still have a rather nice tank on your team. And it still has enough utility through paralysis spread that I think we'd be able to get some use out of it. But definitely a mon that I'm not that high on compared to what I'd like to feel. Should make good use of Terra at least. It is a bulky normal already, so you don't really worry about a lot KOing you. And then like Terra ghosting or poisoning, so that's pretty reliable. You can do some stuff with download even maybe. Really tap into that potential power. I think it should be okay. Porygon Z. It's like one of these two mons where I think it'd either be banned from NU or be just a really strong breaker. I kind of worry about some stuff with this, like agility. Terra sounds kind of scary if you get the download boost to go your way. I'm gonna say Porygon Z in NU. I think it could be on the very upper end. And agility would, like, again, agility download and like Terra Blast, Fire, or Ground sounds very, very devious. Again, there's some of these balls that are really, really conflicting for me to rate. Because, wow, that sounds obnoxious. Last gen we banned it, largely because I was telling people that I thought it was a little absurd. I was like, yeah, the agility stuff's just kind of cringe. Huh. Yeah, I feel like it gets more cringe before it gets less cringe. Though we also didn't have, like, a Chansey last gen. We do this gen. But do we want to tell everyone just use Chansey, noob? I don't know about that. It doesn't sound very practical. Man, I'm gonna say NUBL. We'll say NUBL. We'll come back to this later. We'll see if we were right. Sceptile, I'm gonna say Inu. I believe with the Indeedys down here, maybe even Thwacky, frankly, maybe even Incursion, frankly, I think something with Terrain Cheese will pop up. Keep on too, we got Grafaiai, and although yesterday's video made Grafaiai look to be worse than using, I don't know, Diglett in Inu, with Sandveil, no, not Sandveil, you can't use that, with Sandforce, I guess we'll say. Sandforce Diglett in Inu. I do believe that it plus Sceptile plus, you know, something like a Drifblim or maybe some other special attacker. That sounds pretty decent for terrain. So yeah. Blaziken, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Blaziken with Terastallizing gives it enough power boost to get it up to UUBL at least, or maybe creak into OU usage. HO Blaziken sounds very, very strong. And although without Z moves we really did see it fall off, I think Terra brings it up again with power level. Or brings up the power level enough for Blaziken specifically. Options like Terra Electric to just blow past any sort of water type that really wants to stand in your way. Because the issue for you last gen was you just didn't do enough damage. You boosted, you still couldn't one-shot him, and they popped you with a, you know, Scald and you fell over because you don't have bulk. Won't be the issue this gen. And there's not even, you know, Scald propensity, or not propensity, the amount of users with Scald this gen, there's less. So if I Terra Electric, I don't have to worry about getting burned by Scald on the next turn or anything. Pretty okay. Pert. Swampert's gonna be so good. I'm gonna say UU. It's kind of become known for being UU over the years now. And the only reason I don't have it being up in OU is I don't think it really got a ton this gen to make it better. Because you're looking at Pert, it is going to probably be losing Toxic and Scald. Those are two nice progress-making moves. They're not the end of the world. They do put a limit, though, on how much utility it's offering. And if you look at the amount of competition, like, let's open up this right now. I think this would be very, very nice to get a bit of a perspective. You look at OU, you got like Alamamola, you got Big Dozo, you got Chomp, you got Tusk. You got Lando. If you're just looking at competition for waters and grounds, you got Ting, you got Pex. And then in Yu, hello friend. What are bulky? You got like the Claude. You got Impo, who has recovery as well. Gastro, who has recovery. You got Treads. You got Quaquaval. You got Rotom Wash. You got a lot of pretty decent options there. Wow, that's a large band. I didn't even know Mew was in the game right now. That's hilarious. But you got a lot of decent options there where they really set themselves apart from Pert because recovery. That's like the biggest thing. Pert's gonna be easier to wear down. Won't shock me that someone got spikes though in this gen because they seem to have given just about every ground type spikes. So maybe it'll just follow in Gastrodon's footsteps. But I think it'll probably still be Yu. Though who knows? It could be more like an RU. I'll give y'all a hot take. I'll continue the mono water tier too. I'll say there's mono water plus a mon that looks like a water type. I'll say Pert falls to RU. How about that? You like that for content? I mean, look at RU, man. Oh, Slowking too. I don't know if I said him. I'm a little tired right now. I mean, look at RU though. Look at their options. I mean, Donphan? I could compete with a Donphan. Powdon? I could compete with Hippo. I've been doing that for years. Lycanroc Dusk? I check you. I could compete some with Milotic. But, God, there's just so many. I think Pert would settle in pretty decently, though, in RU. It just looks more comparatively on that level. And then maybe it pushes Vapo down to Inu. Now, Plusle and Minun. This might be a hot take, guys, but I don't think Plusle and Minun are going to be very good this gen. There's just something about these two Pokemon that screams that this will not be the generation where they finally rise out of, you know, super duper duper unused. So, you can tell me in the comments if I'm wrong on that. I just got a feeling. Flygon is RU because this mon will never not be RU. We're not allowed Flygon in Inu. I don't know why. They refuse to stop using it, so I'm not even going to entertain it. Metagross. I'm going to put Metagross in UU. And this is a vibes-based pick, because there's nothing about Metagross in Generation 8, right? I think we had Meta in 8. There's nothing about Metagross last gen that says it should rise a gen, or rise a tier. I just have a feeling it's getting shift gear. I don't know why. I can't defend that feeling. Just think something about it says it's getting shift gear. I'll put it RU because realistically, I mean, it's not gotten any better that we know of yet. If it does end up getting better. What's really funny too, I'm doing this on the day that we're getting DLC 2 announcements, so there's a chance we learn that Metagross got buffs. But as of I'm recording this, we don't know about any buffs, so. Metagross, we'll say RU again. It just... God, in recent years, I've looked at this mon more and more. I've just been like, wow, yeah, this mon actually doesn't really stand out anymore. Rampardos and Bastion. Now again, this might shock some of y'all. I don't think this will be the generation these two break out of PU, or lower. And to the, like, 1.5 Bastiodon fans watching this video, I'm sorry. Pick a better favorite Pokemon. This mon is not good. Serp will be definitely OU. I don't think there's really any ways around it. I think this is a great example of a mon that benefits a ton from Terra. I mean, you know, all the doom speaking originally before Scarlet Violet came out. About like, oh yeah, some abilities only work once now. Contrary is one of them, so Serp's gonna suck. Yeah, how'd that take age? Yeah, okay. So I think Serp will pretty easily be all the way up here in the OU tier. Also, wow, that's a lot of Terra versatility when you think about it. Like, ground should be good, fire should be good, dragon could be, ice could be. Yuck. Emboar. See, like, what's funny is right now, I'd argue Emboar might still be too good for Inu and would go Inu BL. Because there's not a single damn water type to check this. It's not like they did anyway. You get hit by superpower, it probably gets close combat if we're being honest. And yeah, I mean, you got Wild Charge to deal with too. I think maybe... God, because I feel like this one's just going to get buffed if anything. Maybe, like, Gligar, Mudsdale, those type of mons are enough to hold it back. And this mon's really slow. And you compare it to the last time it was in you, Gen 7, where it got banned, of course. We didn't really... Like, the checks were, like, Druddigon and... Oh, I'm trying to dig deep into memory. Slowbro. Obviously, you're not really using Slow King because who cares if you got Slowbro. Those were like your best defensive countermeasures. And offensively, the tier was just a lot slower. So, Scarf Emboar was actually like a really good set that messed with a lot of your counterplay because you got past Pokemon like, say, Whimsicott that could otherwise kind of threaten you. This gen, you don't really have that going for you because you're not in nearly as slow as the tier. So actually, I'd probably say Emboar could be NU finally. It's gonna be a really good NU mod. At least I think. It projects to be one, right? Look at our water types. It might be able to Flare Blitz every team down. Though you also gotta look at competition. There's Arcanine, and Big Ark's got that Terra Normal E-Speed on deck, so that's actually pretty hard to contest with. Delphox as well. You know, it's faster. It's not as strong off bat, but you got Nasty Plot, so you become stronger for sure. You got Oricorio, you know what? Salazzle, woo! Yeah, Emboar will be finding in you. Substrika, once again, just something telling me, bro. Just something telling me. Excadrill. I think, and this is kind of where, I'm gonna let y'all know my Incineroar take right now. I was gonna say Incineroar probably falls down to Inu this gen. Because if T-Tar is an Aru, again, let's look at Aru right now and just look at the competition for that, like, bulky type, dark type role, or even just certain mons that you'd want to take hits from. I feel like Incineroar has a decent amount of overlap with some of these guys like T-Tar, Cyclizar, Muckalola, even Tinkaton. T-Tar, though, is of course the biggest one. And if Drill is coming back, which seemingly it is, that's kinda significant for T-Tar's viability. Because that might take T-Tar up to OU. Keep in mind, that one got knockoff this gen. It's still Stealth Rock. It's got like Thunder Wave. Support Tyranitar alongside Drill and OU I think is very feasible. And I've said this before. I believe the biggest reason that Tyranitar fell out of OU isn't really because T-Tar itself got worse this gen. I mean, Tusk, of course, is a huge reason too. Great Tusk just sits on you forever. But a huge reason is because what the hell is Tyranitar supporting? Like, what Pokemon am I helping out here? So what I am going to do, right, is I'm going to say Incineroar, like I was talking about. I think it's going to be NU because it's probably just worse than what RU has. It does similar roles. But if T-Tar rises to OU, it will not surprise me if we did see Incineroar rise back up to RU in a response. Now, maybe Incineroar loses moves like Knockoff, because they seem to like giving out Knockoff to everything, but they also could take Knockoff. And of course that would, I mean, that's in a down to PU, let's be honest. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough mon. And as y'all may have noticed so far, I've given PU like nothing good from this projected DLC drop. I mean, dear God, these are all shit mons for the most part, outside of like Lantern, Magmortar. Maybe even, I mean, honestly, Hitmontop you could actually count as a decent option. Whimsicott might be a PU mon though, and that would be really good. That'd be a really strong Pokemon down there. The reason I say might be is Whimsicott might still be NU. I mean, I look at NU right now. Whimsicott would be quite solid, I think. It'd give you a nice pivot around Goodra, for example. I think, honestly, the biggest qualm I'd have is there's a lot of poison types in the tier, so wall-breaking Whimsicott sets wouldn't be too good. You'd have to rely on utility, and Whimsicott, again, Knockoff and Defog. Did I keep either of those? So, again, it's hard to say. I think Whimsicott probably will be PU, though. I'll put it at the top, though, because why not? I think it'd be a great mon done there. It's just another mon where I do think, overall, its viability is definitely going to be dictated by what moves it was allowed to keep. Scrafty kind of similar, although Scrafty's going to easily be NU. Okay, I'm just going to move you to the end. I want it like that. I want you back here, too. Let me just keep the order going how I want it to be. Yeah. Yeah, you can't stop me. So, where was he? Scrafty right there. But you had an Incineroar too, screw you. I think Scrafty with Terra just sounds really cringe. I mean, I really don't have anything else to say. Please tell me how you want to deal with bulk up Scrafty as it can Terra into like a Steel or a Ghost or a Fairy or a Water type at any given notice. I don't want to deal with that. Now, conveniently, I think Vileplume still beats down kind of reliably. Terra Steel's where you get worried or poison there, but like, It can't really reliably Terra Water or Fairy, which are two just useful defensive typings, at least to beat Plume. That's really good. But wow. You're talking about one of the best bulky setup sweepers that a lower tier has ever known. And Terra is one of the most frustrating mechanics for bulky setup sweepers that we've ever seen. Look at the reasons a lot of bulky mounts have been banned this gen. It is because Terra makes them unkillable. Unkillable, of course, being hyperbole. But it is a much harder mechanic to work around versus those guys. Because they're just so bulky, and being able to flip the type chart randomly can make game planning against them quite difficult. I mean, there's a world where Scrafty gets banned. Frankly, I'm going to just throw it out there into the ether. But I'm going to say Inu for now, with room to shoot up past it. Also, it's going to be interesting to see how it affects coverage, because Scrafty does get, like, you're talking about fairy types here, right? We mentioned Steel and Poison as two of the best Terra types, I think, projecting onto Scrafty. I mean, it learns Iron Head and Poison Jab. There's really nothing stopping Dragon Dance Scrafty from being a thing either. And then you have that coverage for some of your best checks, too. Now, Steel, I think, will suffer from some issues, especially if you're talking about a Dragon Dance set. Because unless you go Chop Berry, you're not dropping your weakness to fighting at any point. So, it could be a little bit dicey there. But I think we'll still see some success from Dragon Dance sets, particularly because Terra gives you that really nice buff to common coverage that you can run. Cincino, yeah, Pew. I don't... What is it doing? You getting Population Bomb? If you do, then okay. But until then, don't talk to me. Reuniclus, I'm gonna say Yu. Or again, similar reasons to why I'm worried about Scrafty and Inu. Really bulky setup sweeper. I think some Terra stuff could make this very difficult. And Reuniclus, maybe this is really profound on too. Because Mono Psychic is just so bad defensively. We can imagine Reuniclus turning into a water type at Calm Minding? That sounds quite strong. So, I think that's a really big buff to it. OTR will still be probably pretty decent as well. Spider, this mon will never be good. Please stop. Golurk? I mean, Pew is definitely an option for Lurk, but I think it probably could get into Inu. His mon remains perpetually incredibly difficult to wall. And even with Terra, I don't really think that changes a ton. I think, if anything, Golurk feasts on how few polter-proofed mons there are right now. Like, what is Golurk doing? It's poltergeisting. And with Weezing also at a really low point. Rotom-Mow at a really low point. These are mons that commonly were trying to run sets that could exploit Golurk and try and pivot around it. So, you know, something like Hisui Electrode, I'm much happier to run in that than I am a Rotom-Mow, because I don't care about that pivoting in. I'm Earthquaking you. Something like a Quillfish, I don't care about that being used over Weezing, because I could Earthquake you, or Poltergeist you. So, there are definitely some nerfs, I think, to Golurk. In terms of the power of the tier also just being higher, I would say. Even something like Earthworm could be annoying, but hey, don't worry about Earthworm yet. It's okay. Golurk's not in the game yet, we'll find the tech around it. But you look at current Inu, right? Like, what are the mons really stopping Lurk too consistently? Something like Wo-Chien could be kind of annoying, but Lurk does have coverage. Same with, like, Umbreon. You got some mons that definitely could be stifling it. Yeah, Serena's still in the tier. That mon ran itemless a decent amount. You could see it happen again. Snorlax, I mean, it's going to try to curse up. I don't know how reliable it'll be. Mudsdale is in the tier again. Gligar's in the tier. So it's not like you don't have mons that can't beat it down. As I just think it's going to be it's going to be more free this gen to Polter spam. At least with how Inu currently looks. Also, Golurk, go behind Incineroar. How dare you? Or ahead of it. Meowstic. Yeah, this is not a Pokemon. Goodbye. Malamar. This is kind of tricky. I must say up in Inu or PUBL though. Because, again, we know Terra is what we're talking about here. But I think that really unlocks Malamar a ton. Because, what am I commonly weak to? Fairies? Okay, a Terra Steel. Or a Terra Poison. Now you can't force me to rest by toxic poisoning me. Oh, now you can't cripple me with a burn or something. Because I'm a fire type. I don't think it'd run fire ever, but it sounds okay on principle. And the nice thing too about Malamar is you're a dark type, so something like Grafaiai, you don't even care about the Prankster Encore. Like, you just don't. It can't do anything versus you. You can't taunt, you can't Encore you. Sableye, same deal. And I am saying, like I said, PUBL maybe, because I don't really know if Malamar projects that good to be an NU, especially if Scrafty's in the tier. I think Scrafty will always be better. But, hey, I mean, PU might ban it. Primarina, I'm gonna throw all the way up in UU, and this is a low-key UU-BL mon. It's always been absurdly dominant whenever it's been in UU. I don't really see why that would change this gen. Offensive sets are always cringe. Bulky sets are still stupidly strong as well, but end up having a much easier time pivoting into stray earthquakes, so you don't get as pressured by, you know, I mean, in older gens it was by mons like Hippowdon, for example. I guess in this gen it'd be by like a mon like, say, Gastrodon. You pivot in, you hope it doesn't toxic. I think it kept toxic. If it didn't, ignore that. But you pivot in and you sub, and the mon looks at you and goes, ah, yes, I have lost. Toucannon. Certainly a Pokemon that's coming back in the DLC. Araquanid. Araquanid's kind of funky. Because I feel like Araquanid's whole deal last gen was it was really good at exploiting Vaporeon. And even Mantine sometimes, because you ran a Mantine that didn't have a flying move. This gen, neither of those things are in play, though. But instead, I mean, it's kind of give and take, though, right? None of those things are in play, but now, okay, so there's fewer mons that resist liquidation, and the few that do, I mean, Leech Life is sapping them. I think Araquanid probably would still get up at Inu. Plus, I just assume we'll get more bulky water types that it will exploit later on, so. Same type of stuff as last gen. The nerf is, of course, if it lost Toxic, you don't have the Subtox set available. I don't think that'll matter a ton. I think you can find something else to run. It doesn't have a lot of moves, but like Araquanid, yeah, I know you're not in the game. That's fine. Never mind, it's not fine. Not fine at all. What did they do to my Araquanid? Hold on, where is it? Gen 8 OU, sure. I just need a gen where Araquanid's allowed. Yeah, you can see it was PUBL. But like, you know, maybe throw Crunch in there. Infestation. That could be kind of fun. Again, like I said, Scald probably removed from most Pokemon. As you can see, his one's move pool is pretty terrible. You know, I've managed to convince myself that Araquanid will not be getting into Inu. And I don't think this gen it would even be PUBL. It might still be. I mean, it's a really strong mon, and if they don't get bulky water types, it's going to be like the same deal for them, right? I just think losing Toxic is quite huge. Comfey. Inu. Easily. Some people might think it'll go to NUBL. I'll counter-argue with this. In Sun and Moon NU, Comfey is about A rank. And that's with Hidden Power instead of Terastallizing. I don't think Terastallize... I mean, Terastallize is actually a pretty huge buff because it's, like, double the power. But I don't think Terastallize breaks Comfey with the increased power level that comes alongside this generation. Compare Sun and Moon NU to even just current SVNU, and now extrapolate what the power level of SVNU is going to look like, especially with all these mons that are, like, just listed here. It's going to be going up quite a bit, and I think that'll keep Comfey contained just enough to where even, okay, like a Terra-Steeled Comfey, spooky as all hell, but manageable. A Comfey, you know, it's got Terra Fire, Terra Blast, or Terra Ground. Scary as all hell, but you could at least still manage with it. It's going to be tough, but it'll be okay. Yo, Minior low-key could be PUBL, and I wouldn't even be shocked, because I think Terra might make it too good. I'm gonna throw it still in PU, I think. Yeah, I'll throw it in PU still. I think it's got enough issues still with... God, you have to... The shields down stuff's actually kind of hard to work around, because you're not very strong without it, and if you do find yourself getting two-shot without ever getting to go to your shields down, it's not nice. Not nice at all. Don't like. And ground types, I mean, you could Terra like water, I guess. Be pretty okay. I just, man, is Minior gonna be OP with Shell Smash and Terra? Could be. What's current PU got going on in it? What's our current Minior counterplay? Let's learn. Walk with me. Walk with me for a moment, friends. Yeah. Well, there's some mons still in there. Maybe Terra Grass would be more annoying, like, 'cause it would let you hit things like Wrath. Still give you the coverage for grounds. Let you hit just really any water type. Could actually see it being kind of OP, huh? Yeah, no, this is actually kind of tough to say. I mean, at the end of the day, anything a Terra versus it, right? You could turn into a Steel type that tries to Stone Edge you. I don't know. I might be able to convince myself Minior would be PUBL. That's insane. I might be able to convince myself that Minior could be PUBL. You know what? I'm gonna make the bold take and say Minior somehow ends up PUBL. There's just something telling me. Alchemy, I'm gonna say PU, but it's another mon that I think could be very, very dangerous. Because this mon, you want to talk about bulky setup sets that are demonic. Ooh, Acid Armor, Calm Mind. We ready? We ready, boys? Yeah, scary hours. But I'm gonna still say PU for now. I think it'll be like their first real good bulky fairy type. And then Duraludon, I imagine an Inu. I don't know if the Violet buff is the huge bit. It's more just I really prefer Duraludon's speed. Like, I really like how fast Duraludon is, and I don't know if I'd want to run in a Violet set and feel like I need to then do bulky Dura instead of offensive. But I think both will be really good. It's more Violet gives you a little bit more options that you could try and tap into when you do like an Iron Defense Body Press set. Because Duraludon could just drop sub entirely. There's fewer Scald mons anyway, so it's not like you really care about subbing away from them, so you avoid a burn. Just run sub 3 attacks. You got Body Press, Flash Cannon, Draco, Thunderbolt, Dark Pulse even if you want to hit Ghost types a bit harder. I think it should be pretty decent in Inu. I think, too, it helps that Bronzong has kind of fallen off. So, that's... Actually, I don't even know, though. Because think about Bronzong versus Copper. If you wanted to, like... Oh my god, a yawn. If you wanted to run, like, Specs Dura last gen, you had Dark Pulse. You had ways. You could beat Dura. Or not Dura, you could beat Bronzong. Raja, you always had to throw on, like, Body Press or just keep chunking at it with, like, T-Bolts or Dracos. So the Zong matchup was just far clearer. And in general, this gen, look at our Steel type situation. I actually think Duraludon could be really nasty, because look at our Steel types. Let's find him. Bronzong, I mean, we already know that doesn't actually beat you. Copper, it's a good check. It's a good check. It's all I can say. Klefki, I don't think that mon beats me at all. And then there's just nothing else. So yeah, I think Duraludon's pretty solidly in you. And now we get to all the legendaries. All of them. Raikou. See, Terra's really... Because he gave him Scald in Gen 8. But I wouldn't shock me if it lost Scald, but now it's Terra Blast. I think Raikou could probably actually get into UU. Very nicely fast mon. Calm Mind, Terra Blast, Ice probably just beats all your counterplay anyway. I don't really have anything else to say there. Entei, I'm gonna say RU, and it's because, like, I think for similar reasons Arcanine could pull off Howl, I think Entei might be able to do it in RU. Now, it's worth keeping in mind. Entei did fall. It fell to NU last gen, and we banned it. I just think for similar reasons as last gen, we would ban it this gen. So, like, compare Arcanine. Can I even see its stats here? No, I can't. Hold on, let me open up the other one. Hold on, this is Gen... Let's make this Gen 8 OU. Because now we're at old ones. Arcanine, 110 attack. Entei, 115. Entei, 100 speed. Arcanine, 95 speed. Entei, 115, 85, 75 bulk. Arcanine, 90, 80, 80. So, Entei in basically every way is a little bit better offensively than Arcanine, and even defensively, it's at least got the bulk. Like, Arcanine's got recovery, but Entei's not really worried about that if I'm running an offensive set. So, everything about what makes Arcanine good projects to do the same for Entei. So, I believe even if it did drop to NU, there's a very high chance we just end up banning it. Maybe not, but yeah, it relies on us getting some water types to check. And this doesn't even talk about the fact that we don't even have to limit it to to Howl. Talk about Calm Mind. Remember Vente from last gen with Calm Mind, Sub Protect, stalling out literally every bulky water type and beating them 1v1? And do we want to go back to that hell? Because it'll do the same to every mon this gen. So I don't think it might not drop to NU even, but if it does, I can't imagine a world where it's balanced. Suicune, I mean, honestly, I'd probably just say that Suicune's probably with Entei and Aryu. Because the thing is Suicune's kind of limited in scope of what it does. Those Venusaur sets are really scary. I don't actually know if in this gen they're nearly as problematic, where Suicune's probably losing Scald. Like, the biggest reason those sets were so good last gen, well, all the gens prior where you saw them used, is you had Scald to force burns, and then you could stall out Pokemon to your Sub Protect. And it made it really bad. But now you're going to have to rely on like Surf and maybe outside support from like a Toxic Spike setter. And that's just far easier to game plan around and far easier to not lose to. So I kind of struggle to see why Suicune would... I just don't think it'll be this good anymore, and I don't think it'll be ban-worthy from Aryu, you know? Latios, I do feel like Latios will probably be UU somewhere. Or OUBL, or UUBL, I mean. Same with Latios. And honestly, probably the addition of Terra makes them even better, right? Because you're talking Latios being an even more powerful wall breaker. You're talking Latios, same thing, but the utilities options on it kind of become a bit more profound. I guess as a defog kind of sucks for Latios, because that was one of the nice things it could do, was a very offensive, powerful Pokemon still that had that extra utility. So you could run stuff like Life Orb, but it'd go Defog Roost, Draco, Surf, if you just wanted an example set. That was a pretty nice option. It also just takes away a bit of utility from Scarf sets on these, because you could have that fast defog if you just needed a little bit of hazard control. But I think Terra's going to probably outweigh those negatives. Stored power is pretty decent on these guys. Terra's going to help out with that. And then you just crank up the damage levels to Wumbo if you're talking about their spec sets, or even their Scarf sets revenge killing possibilities. If you just want to throw on like a Terra Electric so that Thunderbolt's picking off Pokemon more effectively. Throw in a Terra Fairy so you're not worried about Sucker Punch. Maybe I'd go for like Terra Fire with Terra Blaster fighting if you wanted a bit better of a matchup into, say, a King Gambit or a Tinglu. I do believe these have some very nice options coming to them. Also, I am going to keep putting these in the spot where they make sense Dex order-wise, or at least generation-wise. Leave me alone. Cobalion? Cobalion. This one I think will probably fall again to Aryu. But it won't shock me if Yu keeps it. It's just, it finally fell out of Yu for the first time ever last gen. At least for where it meant ending a generation in a tier not named Yu. And I do find like that to be very possible. I mean, it's not like Yu, again, when we talk about some of these old mons, you always look at the tier now. It's not like the tier is getting any less strong. Look at there is a Hoopa unbound here. And then you talk about Cobalion, I mean, Iron Treads is some huge competition. Jirachi is still huge competition. Like, these are mons that commonly are filling in that role that you would want Cobalion for. And I'm looking at mons that it checks. And I'm just like, what am I checking in this tier? Gengar? Namor's T? Gudra Hisui? Well, these monsters kind of beat you down anyway. Yeah, it does not look good. There's also Moltres around, which is going to be generally annoying. Of course, Volcanion's going to be generally annoying. I don't know. I just sense another gen where Cobalion falls to Aryu and it ends up being God of that tier instead of God of UU. Virizion? This mod is so ass. But I still think it'll be in Inu by the end of it all. I have a feeling it'll get Trailblaze, and then SD Trailblaze will be good on HO and Inu. That's all I have to say. Not much. Terrakion, I think this one will stay UU, because Choice Band is hilarious. Yeah, y'all thought I disconnected for a moment, didn't you? Yeah, no, I just stopped having thoughts. What else do you want me to say? I think Bandit Terrakion is still going to do the same stuff that it always has. They're going to click close combat 6 times in one shot your whole team. Although I do wonder, on the topic of like Terra Normal stuff, SD Quick Attack Terrak, does that sound any good? Because that sounds kind of interesting, at least to me. I don't know about y'all, but I might have to mess with that. I'm also just, yeah, I guess I'm getting really tired, so my brain's not as good. And now we get to mons that are some of the Ubers. Well, I'll do Necrozma. Necrozma, I think, will be UU with Terra. I think that does a lot for Necrozma. Those demon sets just become even more broken, and I think we could actually see OUBL, or not OUBL, UUBL Necrozma. I'll put it there because that's more of a fun take. But now we get to this point where we have some ones that have been Ubers before, like as recently as last gen. I think Kyurem Black is a pretty easy mon to keep in Ubers. There's really nothing, unless it lost one of Dragon Dance or Icicle Spear, there's no reason that it would be unbanned. It was very broken in OU last gen. It's probably going to be very broken again. It even has loaded dice if you want to throw in a buff that it got. So Icicle Spear hitting 50 million times, that's kind of scary. Regular Kyurem, I mean, here's the thing. Clef got nerfed, so I feel like that's kind of bad for the people that would want this mod unbanned. Like, Golden Goat checks insofar as you don't die in one hit to Ice Beam. If you have an air balloon, you don't care about Earth Power. Though, what's happening that next time you try to come in? I'm gonna just say Kyurem is probably also still gonna be a little bit too much. Again, it's like I struggle to look at it and say, oh yeah, no, Specs got worse. I guess Subroost got worse. Yeah, this is another instance where, like, yeah, the Power Point nerf does hurt the mon. I can't stall at Clef Moonblast as easily. It's just Clef suffered a similar nerf. So does it really want to keep switching into my attacks? Eh. I don't know. Kyurem could... I actually could see a world where Kyurem is still OU, for what it's worth. I could definitely see a world where they look at the Moonblast power... Not the Moonblast. The Roost PowerPoint nerf, and they say, okay, well, the stalling sets aren't nearly as good. Specs is really, really dumb to try to switch around, but hey, I mean, you can manage okay enough. But it's definitely... So you can go here, Ho-Oh. There we go. How are they looking at each other? Nice friends. Same with here. You two can look at each other. And look at that. That works out so nicely. But I could definitely see that happening again. Where Specs Kyurem is just looked at and I go, okay, yeah, where's my checks? And it's Solgaleo! Unban this mon! This is not a real Pokemon. This is a Digimon. There is no world where Solgaleo is broken. Okay, that's a lie. There is a world where Solgaleo is broken. Hold on, let me get the, Jenny. Yeah, let's go! Solgaleo! Uber banned, it's okay. Like, this is the world where it's still banned. You look at this mod's stats. This is a lot! Like, 137 attack is stupidly high. Full Metal Body does not actually do a lot. So, I mean, functionally, it doesn't really have much of an ability. The speed isn't incredible. I will say, in a gen with Terra, Solgaleo might definitely just still be broken. Like, I mean, it's an Uber's level Pokemon. But let me go. At least give it a suspect test, man. Anyhow, I've been talking to y'all for a long ass time, 69 minutes. It's pretty nice. If you made it this far, comment down below, Solgaleo for OU. Let me know your thoughts as well on where I rank some of these Pokemon. You got any that you disagree with? Hit me up, let me know. Oh, Porygon Z also, I just noticed this. You get moved here. But I hope y'all enjoyed. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.